no, the good thing about having a virtual event is that obviously Joe and Jose could just cut me off in my prime. And yeah, I know Jose is actually actively looking forward to doing that. So I'm going to try and time myself quite rigorously to deprive him of that pleasure. Anyway, what I want to talk to you a little bit about today is one of my pet hates, which is plastic. And more specifically, microplastics, and maybe a couple of initiatives to try and beat plastics at their own game. Ever since its invention around about 300 years ago, who was the bright spark who invented plastic? Well, I'm not going to go into that right now, but I bet you it seemed like, the best thing since sliced bread at the time, and seemed like it was just going to be solving people's problems. Little did they know. So ever since it was invented, it's become an indispensable part of our lives. It is, as you well know, ubiquitous and very versatile. And it can be found in most of our belongings, right from, cars and probably the Thalys train, as we've just been hearing, right down to the tip of our shoelaces. However, there's one major downside, as you're all aware, to its success, and it's not related to this nice little beeping sound we're all getting on our sound channel. The major disadvantage is that it is a synthetic material that doesn't break down easily, if at all, not even if you take a large hammer to it. Plastic is actually the most prevalent type of marine debris found in our oceans and our Great Lakes. Plastic debris can come in all shapes and sizes, but anything that's less than 5 millimeters in length, or about the size of a sesame seed, is called a microplastic. And these microplastics come from a variety of different sources, including larger plastic debris that degrades into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. Now, the European Chemicals Agency says that between 10,000 and 60,000 tons of microplastics that have been intentionally added to products leak into the environment every year. It's impossible to remove them, and they last for thousands of years. The scale of the problem is pretty dramatic. It's 6 times the size of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, or the plastic pollution generated by 10 billion plastic bottles, according to the agency. Microplastics accumulate and they persist in the environment, which is one of the main reasons why the agency concluded it's necessary to restrict microplastic ingredients under REACH, which is the strictest set of chemical laws in the world. And then we should talk about microbeads. Microbeads, a type of microplastic, are very tiny pieces of manufactured polyethylene plastic that are added to exfoliants, as exfoliants to health and beauty products, like some cleansers and some toothpastes. These minuscule particles easily pass through water filtration systems and end up in the oceans and the Great Lakes, posing a potential threat, obviously, to aquatic life. Microbeads are by no means a recent problem. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, plastic microbeads first appeared in personal care products around 50 years ago, with plastics increasingly replacing natural ingredients. Now, this is one of my personal bugbears, as it seems as of, well, today or yesterday or last year or whenever our consciousness was awoken, that in just about every sphere of our life, the types of habits, production, consumption that our parents or our grandparents took for granted is actually what we should be aiming to go back to. despite these decades of supposed progress. So coming back to these microbeads, as I say, they have been intentionally placed in these products, replacing the original natural ingredients. As recently as 2012, this whole issue of microbeads was still relatively unknown, with an abundance of products containing these plastic microbeads on the market and really not a lot of awareness on the part of consumers. However, on December the 28th, 2015, President Obama, remember him? US president with, I don't know, half a criterion and a sense of judgment, some common sense, and even a degree of empathy. That's all long gone, isn't it? So, as I was saying, in 2015, Obama signed the Microbead-Free Waters Act, which banned plastic microbeads in cosmetics and personal care products. And then EU restrictions that are were expected to become law across Europe by 2020, but have been a little bit disrupted by recent events, shall we say, are aimed at preventing an estimated 400,000 tons of plastic pollution. And although NGOs have welcomed the move as a significant step forward, they strongly warn that it grants unnecessary delays for most industrial sectors and excludes some biodegradable polymers. As the proposal currently stands, only some sectors, namely cleansing products made by firms that have already pledged to stop using microplastics, will be restricted, whereas other sectors will not. These other sectors will be granted between 2 and 6 years before the law actually takes effect. Now, from 2 to 6 years, that's a hell of a lot of plastic. So we're now about halfway through. If you'd like to change over. As I was saying, other sectors will be granted millions of tons of plastic worth of extra time before the law is applied to them. Of course, it's easy. It's easy to look at the rules and regulations and to decry the fact that they are perhaps coming in too late, or they're doing too little, or they're not stringent enough. But we all know, really, that you can legislate until you're blue in the face. But until consumers and producers actually take their own decisions or take the whole issue into their own hands, you can have all the laws on the statute book that you like. But having the laws passed does not mean to say they will necessarily be put into effect, implemented, controlled, and the necessary sanctions put into place. So here I'd like to talk a little bit more about consumer awareness and responsibility. And just to deviate slightly from the original subject, I'd like to share with you my very recent experience in our own field. I'm sure many of you will have seen, prior to late February, early March, the gradual appearance of biodegradable elements in conferences, like at the coffee breaks and the buffets and so on. We started to see bamboo cutlery. And I just very recently, 10 days ago, took part in a kind of semi-hybrid event, tricky to classify in our, as I say, new classification. And I was very pleased to see that the mini catering that was provided offered us bamboo plates. Now, I hadn't come across them before, and apparently they are readily available in the, I don't know, Spanish, certainly Canary Island variety of the cash and carry, macro, and you can go and buy these large stacks of bamboo plates. So this has to be a step forward, I would say. Apart from our specific sector, it's obvious that over recent years, and well, I would say decades, but certainly years, and no, we're not suffering acoustic shock. That was a little special something that Wise prepared for us all. So, as I was saying, over recent times, not sure, years or days, people in general, and the citizen at large, have become more mindful of their plastic use, and many now practice the reusing, recycling, practices. I mean, not just these preached ideas that we should follow, lots of people are putting them into practice. And it's so important because the businesses that are selling these products, I mean, some of which are obviously plastic, others of which, as we've heard, have these hidden little bits of microplastic. I mean, the thought now of, brushing my teeth and know that I'm brushing my teeth with micro beads. I mean, really, it gives, every time I go into the bathroom, it gives a whole new kind of flavor. I'm plasticating my teeth. If we, the customers, demand, and we actually, spend our money in line with the our environmental and societal preferences, this is what's going to make this big business change its mind. Because over the last few decades, we've heard an awful lot about kind of corporate social responsibility, but very often the types of schemes, projects, initiatives supported by corporate social responsibility programs have been a bit of a whitewash, frankly. And customer-driven changes are the ones that are really going to make a big impact, not only obviously on the consumption, but on production patterns from here on in. And so I'd like to talk to you now, just in the last part of this speech, about an initiative to produce bottles made from plants. The big beverage giants, Coca-Cola and Carlsberg, are backing projects to produce these all-plant bottles that decompose in just a year. So, in the beverage sector, could this be the end of plastic? Beer and soft drinks, Agua de Valencia, could soon be sipped from all-plant bottles under these new plans to turn sustainably grown crops, very important that the crops be grown sustainably to begin with, into plastic in partnership with these major beverage makers. A biochemicals company in the Netherlands hopes to kickstart investment in a pioneering project that aims to make plastics from plant sugars rather than from fossil fuels. The plans, devised by this chemicals company Avantium, have already won the support of the beer maker Carlsberg, which hopes to sell its beer in a cardboard bottle lined with an inner layer of plant plastic. Nice lot of noun clusters in English there for you. This project has the backing of Coca-Cola and Danone, which hope to secure the future of their bottled products by tackling the environmental damage caused by plastic pollution and a reliance on fossil fuels. The CEO of Avantium, the chemicals company, has stated that the project remained in operation even during lockdown, which shows that they really are keen on it. And more partnerships with other food and drinks companies are set to be revealed later this summer. This really could be a turning point in the beverage industry. So any investment in degradable plant-based plastics can only be a good thing. Now, as you can imagine, I could probably talk about this for at least another 10 minutes, but bearing in mind that we need to get some feedback and then we're going to have a social get-together, I think I'll call it a day at that point for now. Thank you very much for listening.